Hey everybody, it is Wednesday morning, and as promised we're going to do another yard tour today. I just looked out the window and the sun is shining. Beautiful day, so I wanted to try to get this while we can. Got some more rain coming later this afternoon, I believe. And these azalea right now just look absolutely fantastic. I am loving this pink reddish one. I'm not sure what color you call that. That one is looking amazing right now. Our white one is just passing its prime. Yesterday, I think, was probably the first day past its peak. We're now starting to get a little bit of browning on the flowers, and it's really starting to lose that vibrance. But that one is stunning when it's in its full glory and the sun shining on it. So the azaleas are coming and going. Got our columbine starting to go now. I really like this one here. This is a really pretty columbine, like that sort of burgundy color. I believe this is the same one here. We used to have columbine all over the place, but I believe that is a biennial plant where it comes up one season and doesn't flower, and then the following season it will flower, and then it starts fading away or something. I don't know, but our columbine always seem to sort of come and go. They don't last forever like a typical perennial plant would. Not really sure what their life cycle is, but we are thinking maybe this year we might buy a few more varieties and get some more color of the columbine back into the yard. It's a really pretty flower. Our iris are starting to go, so we've got them in bloom right now. And mostly we're just at the filling in point. Butterfly bushes are coming up. The daylilies haven't even started going yet. You can see all these here are tiger lilies. We've got tiger lilies all over the place. They haven't started going. All of our rudbeckia, echinacea, coneflowers, they still have yet to come. And of course all the flower spikes on all the hosta have not started yet. We're still really early in the season. We've passed all our pretty initial spring bulbs and all of our sort of springtime is coming kind of flowers, and now we're getting into the waiting on the summer stuff. See, like this here, this is all rudbeckia. That's the Maryland state flower, black-eyed Susans, so we'll be getting lots of those. These are actually pansies from last fall that we planted, and they seem to overwinter, and they're looking pretty good. These are allium. It's a type of onion actually, and when that is in full bloom it will be about twice the size of it is now. It'll be about the size of a softball, and it looks like a firework in full explosion that somebody just captured in time. Really neat looking flower when that thing gets open and going on full display. So the bleeding hearts have already sort of come and gone. I've said before, the bleeding hearts are not one of my favorites. They're a pretty flower. The plant itself is a really interesting looking plant. They grow really fast and vigorous, and then once they're done in about early June, they just turn yellow and die off, and then you're left with a big hole in your garden where a big plant used to be. So I'm not a huge fan of the bleeding hearts, and unfortunately they come up like weeds. We have them everywhere. Peonies are developing. We still have a long way to go before the peonies really get going. Rose bushes are still going. Iris haven't come up yet. Got more of those tiger lilies that haven't come up yet. Here's another one of these allium that is starting to do its thing there. So another big patch of tiger lily. All these daylilies have not started doing their thing yet. Got hydrangea that has not started yet. Got all kinds of good stuff out here that we're waiting on. This vine here is a clematis that is not flowering yet. And of course we have all these rows of trees everywhere. These are all Rose of Sharon, which will be blooming and looking beautiful. Where have you been? Squeaker coming home. This, I have no idea what the real name of this bush is, but we always refer to this as a snowball bush. I've called these snowball bushes ever since I was a kid because, well, it's pretty obvious why these are called snowball bushes. This one, unfortunately, broke in a storm, and this whole section here is kind of broken off, and you can see I got it held up by that piece of rope right now. And if it wasn't for that rope, that would almost be lying across my driveway at this point. So unfortunately, we're going to let that finish doing its thing, and then this whole section, this whole half of it's going to be gone. So next summer we're going to have a much smaller butterfly bush, but that's next summer. We'll worry about that when we get here. You can see that little pink flower right there. That's another columbine. That is my kayak that I hope to be out on this afternoon. And then we've got a little bit of stuff starting to happen in here. Lots of daylilies, lots of tiger lilies, lots of hosta, sedum, euonymus. We got all kind of good stuff going on over here. Another clematis that is not yet blooming. Of course, you can see the iris right there. More tiger lilies that have not started blooming yet. Lots of rudbeckia, black-eyed Susan. More daylilies. Another butterfly bush that hasn't started going. So let's walk up and around. You gonna come with us? Come on. Come on. Oh, don't do that. Come on. All right. He'll follow us. Once I walk away and he knows I'm not gonna give him attention, he'll get up and come up here and try to get some more. More iris. I guess these are just regular old common bearded iris. Not a lot going on with these beds. You can see we've got these little, what used to be trees once upon a time. When we moved out here, they were basically tree stumps, and around the tree stumps were a little mishmash of hostas and stuff like that, and we have just sort of expanded on those over the years. And as time has gone on, the tree stumps themselves have rotted away, and so we're left with these little sort of circular garden beds around the yard. Ferns coming in nicely. That will be so thick that you won't even be able to see any of that stuff in there. Those hostas will disappear, those fallen logs will disappear. All that stuff's going to vanish into that fern. So this area up here, we used to actually mow and clear all this area out, but we're kind of downsizing how much of the yard we have to worry about mowing and stuff. And so you see all these hosta all over the ground. We didn't plant any of these. These have just seeded themselves. And we're just going to let them do their thing. We're going to let them grow. And eventually this whole area will be just thick and lush with hosta, the way our fern garden is going to be thick and lush with fern. It's just going to sort of change into hosta up here. And that'll be something we don't have to worry about anymore. Just heard some noise down there. Not sure what that was. I think the cat's probably getting into something. So this is just a different perspective, a look down on the gardens from up here. It's always nice to see things from a different perspective once in a while. Got a clematis growing on the fence right there. And again, we're not going to walk around into the little corners and nooks and crannies and stuff. We'll come down this way. This is another azalea that's just absolutely stunning, especially when you get the light on it. We got a little bit of sun shining on it now, but this one, because of where it's positioned, really doesn't get the sun until the late afternoon. The afternoon sun is in the sky over here and shining, opposite the direction it's shining now. Again, just another little different perspective on what the garden beds look like from over here. And then we will move on to where we have done the most work over the last few days. We cleared out a ton of brush and small trees. We don't have a garden rake, believe it or not. So we're going to the Home Depot today, picking up a rake, and then we'll be able to get in here and start clearing out all the dead leaves and everything. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. So lots of bleeding heart over here, and this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. In about 2 or 3 more weeks, all of this whole area is just going to be open space. It's just all that bleeding heart is just going to die off, and it's going to be open space. This is another big chunk that's just going to be open space. And in fact, if you see this open space, it's because we used to have a giant bleeding heart right in there, and we got rid of it because of that reason. It would die off, and then by June we have this giant hole in our garden. So we've got some coral bells planted in there. We've got this chocolate, a stillbe right here, which is going to fill in and get a little bit bigger, and we're just sort of working on filling in that space now. But we did pull out a huge chunk of bleeding heart, and we will probably wind up removing some of this at some point too, just because of that effect of leaving a big hole in the garden once it's done its thing in June. It's just so early in the year to be dead, you know, or die back and go dormant. So lots and lots of different varieties of fern. I'm not even going to try to name all the varieties of fern. A lot of different varieties of a stillbe. You can see back here we've got a stillbe all over the place. Not flowering yet, but it is back here. And over here is where we've started clearing away all the brush and really opening up that area back through there, and it goes all the way down. We're going to extend these beds all the way down there. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we've been working on these beds for, I don't know, well over a decade now. We've just been slowly plugging away at it. Each year we plant a little more, do a little more to it, add some more flowers, change the shape, put a few more rocks down, and it just gradually is getting there. And we still have a long way to go till this is really full and filled in. You won't even be able to see the ground in here anywhere once this is all grown in. We're having a really, really low temperature spring. I'm actually quite chilly standing out here this morning. I kind of wish I threw a jacket on before I came out. I mean, it's only almost June after all. I don't see why we should be having warm weather by now. But I think it's going to get all the way up into the 60s today. So again, some point, you know, we're going to really start getting some vigorous growth if the weather ever finally decides to warm up. Unfortunately, what it's probably going to do is go from being chilly all the time in the mid 60s, and then we're going to jump up into the low 90s in about a 3-day period, and we're going to go from a nice chilly early spring to sweltering hot summertime overnight. But again, we'll worry about that when it gets here. Nothing specific that we're looking at or for over here, just kind of walking around looking at stuff while I ramble on and chat. I always like to point out all of our little dwarf hosta we have over here. All these are little, actually they're micro hosta. All these little hostas, these are full grown. These are as big as these hostas get. These are a different species. These are just young, small hostas. These will get bigger. But these are all these little micro hostas. They don't get any bigger than that. I hear you. I hear you. Got our trillium right there in bloom. We actually have all 3 colors of trillium. There's a white one, a pink one, and then sort of like a burgundy one. And I'm not sure how common the trillium plant is, but we have them growing wild in a few spots in the yard. And again, we were lucky enough to get all 3 colors. And then this, of course, is all just dead nettles, and they're just, that's like a woodland plant, and they're just kind of making their way through. And then you can also see all this area that we just cleared out, cleared all those big trees and brush. And so now we're going to have to get in there with the rake, like I said, and just start clearing out all that leaf debris and really getting down to the ground. And then we'll start working on planting that. See you. Watch out. Watch out. My new DR chipper shredder that we just got yesterday, and you can see the big pile of chips sitting right next to it. That is what we ended up with after clearing all of that stuff away. We had a huge pile of brush and small trees, and it reduced down to probably could fill 2 trash cans full of wood chips. And of course those wood chips are going to make their way eventually back into the garden. So I'm glad we finally got a chipper instead of just burning it all in my burn barrel like I used to. And that's our planting bench where we cut and divide and start seedlings and so on and so forth. And you can see we got a lot going on and a lot left to do for the season. Again, it's still Well, it feels really early. I know it's halfway through May at this point, or getting on towards June, but it still feels really, really early in the season because it's just so chilly. We're still having to cover plants at night. We're still bringing stuff in occasionally. So it'll get going here soon, hopefully. So there you are, everybody. We're back to where we started. Nice, beautiful, beautiful sunny morning. So I hope you enjoyed that little yard tour with me. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.